Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into 847 Fillmore Street in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And we've got a whole bunch of cool sources. Sketches, newspaper articles.
Oh, yeah. Even some real estate listings and
yeah.
some interactive stuff. So
That's right.
our mission
Yeah.
is to uncover how the story of this single address actually reflects the larger social and architectural shift.
It's not just about the house. It's about the city. It's about understanding the entire city through this one address.
Yeah.
847 Fillmore.
Yeah.
So let's start way back in 1893 and picture 847 Fillmore in all its Victorian glory, Queen Anne-style architecture.
The Queen Anne style was super popular in late 19th century San Francisco. It was a way for residents to really just display their wealth and their optimism, especially after the gold rush.
Oh, wow.
And get this, 847 Fillmore actually had an identical twin.
What?
Yeah, built right next door.
No way.
At 837 Fillmore.
So were their stories as identical as their facades?
That's where things get interesting. They really diverged over time, as we'll see.
Okay, so who are some of the notable people who lived at 847 Fillmore?
Well, one of the first notable residents was Henry Reedon,
Okay.
a prominent beer baron who owned the house in the early 1900s.
A beer baron. Oh, man. He must know how to party.
Yeah, he definitely lives large, but there's more to his story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was also San Francisco's fire commissioner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty important position, especially in a city known for its fires.
Exactly. And, after the 1906 earthquake, Reedon actually rented out the basement of his home, 847 Fillmore, to the fire department.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, so the fire commissioner rented his own basement to the fire department?
You got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that a conflict of interest, do you think, back then?
You're catching on quickly.
Yeah.
There was a 1912 news article that criticized city officials like Reedon for potentially profiting off of these public funds, especially during the city's rebuilding.
So it sounds like there was some controversy surrounding 847 Fillmore.
Oh, yeah. Definitely adds another layer to the story.
Right from the beginning.
Right. And speaking of fire,
Yeah.
847 Fillmore would later be ravaged
Oh, no.
by multiple fires itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ironic.
Very ironic. Yeah. So did they keep rebuilding after the fires?
They did.
Okay.
They did. And as we move into the 1930s, we see 847 Fillmore transition from a single-family mansion to something completely different.
What?
Yeah, a social hall and boarding house.
A social hall and boarding house. That's a huge change from a mansion.
It is.
What happened?
Well, the Great Depression hit San Francisco pretty hard, just like the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And people needed to find creative ways to make ends meet.
Right.
And converting these grand old homes into these boarding houses was a pretty common solution.
Yeah, okay. So who lived there during that time?
Well, the Marcus family.
They owned 847 Fillmore at the time. And there's actually a pretty heartwarming story about the dog Flash.
Oh, I love dog stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 1937, Flash alerted their neighbors to a basement fire.
Ah, what a good boy.
Yeah.
But also really scary given all the fire damage the house has had.
Right. But the 1930s take an even more dramatic turn.
Oh.
The house becomes a meeting place
For
for the Young Communist League.
Whoa, hold on. Communists?
Yep.
Gathering in a former beer baron's mansion?
It's quite the story.
This is wild. What happened there?
Well, this is where it gets a bit like a spy thriller. We actually have accounts of detectives
What?
using dictagraphs to secretly record the meetings that were held inside.
Dictagraphs. What are those?
They're early audio surveillance devices.
Oh, wow. So they were like spying on them.
Exactly. They were able to capture some fiery speeches from the organizer, Benny Dobbs.
Oh, wow. What kind of things was he talking about?
Well, he was talking about workers' rights,
Okay.
social justice. He was a strong critic of capitalism,
Okay.
and he even talked about the possibility of a socialist revolution in America.
It was the 1930s, right? The Red Scare. Weren't people terrified of communism?
It is the height of the Red Scare,
Yeah.
a period of intense anti-communist sentiment, fueled by fear of labor unrest and socialist revelations.
So Dobbs' speeches would have been seen as pretty radical.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Very controversial.
Wow. So we have this seemingly ordinary house that was once home to a beer baron.
Yeah,
Now it's a secret meeting spot for communists being spied on by the government.
you got it.
It's incredible how one address can have so many stories. What happened to 847 Fillmore once World War II started?
Well, World War II brought its own set of changes to 847 Fillmore.
Okay.
As the war escalated, Japanese Americans were forcibly removed
Right.
from their homes and businesses in Japantown
Yeah.
and sent to internment camps. It was a really dark chapter in American history.
It was. And how did that affect 847 Fillmore?
Well into that housing void came black families, many from the South,
Okay.
looking for new opportunities
Okay.
and escaping discrimination. They were drawn to San Francisco by wartime jobs in the shipyards and factories.
So they were escaping one form of injustice only to potentially face another?
Sadly, that's often how it goes.
Mm.
So they faced these limited housing options.
Yeah.
And they were often relegated to overcrowded
Right.
and substandard housing.
So this brings us back to 847 Fillmore.
Exactly, yeah. In 1943, city inspectors made a shocking discovery.
What? What happened?
They found that the house had been illegally converted into a dangerous tenement.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and inside, they found 28 black residents, including children,
Oh, my gosh.
living in appalling conditions.
That's heartbreaking. They must have been really taken advantage of.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder of the inequalities that persisted even during times of national unity. And what's ironic is that the inspectors were looking for Japanese Americans
Right.
who might be hiding out, but instead uncovered a different group facing injustice.
It's incredible how one address can reveal so much about a city's history. The good, the bad, and everything in between. Where do we go from here with the story of 847 Fillmore?
Well, despite the fires, the changing demographics, and all the social upheaval, 847 Fillmore continued to evolve. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how the house transitioned from those difficult war years into the latter half of the 20th century.
From a beer baron's mansion to a communist meeting spot to a crowded tenement.
It's been quite the journey.
847 Fillmore has seen a lot. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Stay tuned. The story's not over yet.
So we left off with 847 Fillmore in a pretty rough spot, not the grand Victorian mansion it once was.
Yeah, it had definitely seen better days.
So how did the house change during the mid-20th century? I mean, we talked about all those fires,
Yeah.
especially that big one in 1964, wiped out the whole fourth floor.
Yeah, that 1964 fire was a turning point for the house.
Yeah.
Really forced a shift in the aesthetics.
Did they rebuild the fourth floor like how it originally was?
Well, by then, architectural tastes were changing. You know, modernism with its clean lines and simplicity was becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
So instead of reconstructing that elaborate fourth floor, they actually embraced the flat roof
Oh, wow.
that resulted from the fire damage.
So 847 Fillmore got a modernist makeover. That's a pretty big departure from its Victorian roots.
It is.
Was that a common thing, to modernize a historic home like that?
It was becoming more common,
Okay.
especially in a city like San Francisco, which has, always been on the cutting edge of architecture. Some people were all about preserving the historical styles.
Right.
But others, they wanted to adapt these old homes to modern living. And 847 is a great example of that.
Yeah. It's like the house itself went through like an identity crisis,
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
What happened to 847 in the decades that followed?
Well, in the 1980s, it became a bed and breakfast.
What? A bed and breakfast? That is quite the change.
Yeah.
From a tenement to a charming little B&B.
Well, the new owners,
Okay.
Richard and Suzanne Krybich,
Okay.
they saw potential.
Yeah.
And they restored some of the original features
Okay.
while also adding their own personal touches.
What did they call their B&B?
No name Victorian.
Oh, I kind of love that. It's like they were acknowledging all of the home's past,
Yeah.
but also giving it this like fresh start.
Exactly.
But it doesn't stop there.
No,
Right.
not at all. In the early 2000s,
Yeah.
847 Fillmore was featured on a cooking show.
Hold on. So this house goes from beer barons to communists to B&B guests to cooking shows. This house has done it all.
It really has.
Yeah.
It was a show called Entertaining People, hosted by Porter Brooks.
Okay.
And apparently the kitchen at 847, even after all these years,
Yeah.
was considered very stylish and modern.
Wow. It's amazing to think about all the different people who have, been in and out of this house. Single family home, social hall, boarding house, a bed and breakfast, a filming location.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a testament to the house's versatility. It's seen it all.
Okay, so we've made it from the 1890s to the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? What's the story of 847 Fillmore now?
Well, in 2007,
Okay.
the house underwent a major seismic and structural overhaul. They reinforced the foundation, added steel supports.
Smart move.
Yeah, earthquake-proofed it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the last renovation. The most recent one was in 2024, a complete makeover.
Okay, what'd they do?
So they repainted the facade, put in new oak hardwood floors,
Yeah.
updated the kitchen,
Oh, wow.
redid all the bathrooms.
It sounds like they spared no expense.
They really didn't. They also added a 480 square foot rooftop deck.
A rooftop deck. Wow, those views must be amazing.
They are. They also added a pergola carport, custom railings, planters, just everything you could imagine.
So after all this, 847 is back to being a single-family home.
Yeah, it was actually recently on the market.
I wonder what stories are going to be added to its history.
And in speaking of stories,
Yeah.
we haven't really talked about 837 Fillmore.
Oh, yeah, the twin. What happened to that house?
So while 847 was going through all of these changes, 837 stayed remarkably true to its Victorian roots.
Really? So they're still standing next to each other, but they look completely different.
Exactly. It's like a tale of two houses. One a symbol of San Francisco's evolution,
Yeah.
and the other a reminder of its architectural heritage.
It's like they're having this conversation across time, It's such a fascinating contrast.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, 837 is saying, remember where we came from.
Yeah.
And 847 is saying, look how far we've come.
Yeah. That's a really powerful visual reminder that history isn't just about preserving the past,
Right.
but understanding how it shapes who we are today.
Yeah, and especially in San Francisco where everything's always changing, that balance is so important.
Do we know anything about the people who have lived in 837? Have their stories been similar?
Well, unfortunately, the historical record isn't very clear on 837.
Yeah.
It's kept a much lower profile.
So there's still a little bit of mystery there.
Always.
I love that. This whole deep dive has been amazing.
Yeah.
Learning about these two houses and how their stories really illuminate the history of San Francisco. Makes you wonder what other secrets are hidden.
Yes.
Just, in plain sight.
Yeah.
In the places we see every day.
And 847's story isn't even over.
Oh.
Remember that 2024 renovation?
Yeah.
They created an interactive tour and a 3D video.
What? We can virtually go inside 847 Fillmore.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's all thanks to this technology called Cubicasa.
Oh, wow.
You can walk through each room, see all the details of the renovations. It's like having your own personal tour guide.
This is incredible. That's a great way to kind of like bring 847 Fillmore's story full circle. From, architectural sketches to digital tours. That's amazing. I can't wait to check it out.
It really highlights how technology is changing the way we experience history.
Yeah. Okay, before we go get lost in the virtual world,
Right.
what are some of the key takeaways from our deep dive into 847 Fillmore Street?
Well, first and foremost, I think this house is a survivor. I mean, it's been through fires, earthquakes, social upheaval,
Yeah.
and it's still standing, more beautiful than ever. I think it's a real symbol of resilience.
Yeah.
And its ever-changing look really reflects the evolution of San Francisco itself.
And let's not forget the people who have called 847 home. The beer barons, the boarding house tenants, communist organizers, B&B guests.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really amazing.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that history isn't just dates and events.
Yeah.
It's about, the lives of everyday people.
And the fact that 847 was once like a central hub for the Young Communist League during the Red Scare,
Yeah.
it's just, it's wild.
It is. It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
Really gives you a glimpse into that really turbulent period.
And finding those black families living in such horrible conditions during World War II, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it's important that we remember these stories.
It is.
So this deep dive it's been great.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much history one address can hold.
It is.
And to think we can actually explore it virtually now
Yeah.
through that Cubicasa tour, that's really cool.
It's amazing.
It's a great way to bring the past to the present. Well, that's it, folks. Over a century of history, captivating stories, architectural marvels, all packed into one address, 847 Fillmore Street.
That's quite the place.
We hope you've enjoyed the deep dive. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're off to explore that virtual tour.
Sounds fun.
And who knows, maybe we'll find even more secrets.
There's always something new to uncover.
That's what makes history so fun. We've explored so many different sides of 847 Fillmore. From its beginnings as this Victorian mansion to its modern makeover. We've seen fires and beer barons and communists. It's been wild. But before we go, I really want to talk about 837 Fillmore, the twin.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these two houses, built at the same time, meant to be identical.
Yeah.
Their paths are so different.
They've had really different journeys.
847 embraced all this change. It went
Mhm.
through so many transformations.
Yeah,
But 837 really stayed true to that Victorian style.
it did.
It's almost like they represent two different ways of thinking about
I feel like
history.
that's a great point.
They're both still standing next to each other after all these years,
Yeah.
but they look so different.
They do, yeah. It's like a visual timeline. You can see how architecture changed just by looking at them.
Yeah, it's like they're having this conversation,
Yeah.
across time.
It is. It's like 837 saying, hey, remember where we came from?
Yeah, yeah.
And 847 is like, look how far we've come.
It's such a powerful reminder that history isn't just about, preserving things.
Right.
It's about understanding how it shapes us today.
Yeah, especially in a city like San Francisco. I mean, it's constantly changing, reinventing itself.
Right.
That balance is so important.
I'm so curious about the people who have lived in 837.
Hmm.
Did their lives mirror the people who lived in 837?
Well, unfortunately, the historical records on 837 they're a bit more elusive.
So there are still some secrets out there.
Oh, always.
I love that. I love that there's still some mystery. This whole deep dive, it's been amazing.
It has.
Just to learn how these two houses can illuminate so much about San Francisco's history.
Mhm.
It's incredible.
It makes you wonder, what other secrets are hidden in plain sight.
Right. In the places we see every day.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of these two houses, just standing there side by side,
Yeah.
each telling its own story.
They really are more than just buildings.
Mm-hmm.
They're vessels of memory.
Mm-hmm.
They connect us to the past.
So what do you hope listeners will take away from this deep dive?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that history is everywhere. It's not just in books. It's in the buildings around us.
Yeah.
In the streets we walk on.
Yeah.
All we have to do is look for it.
It's like this hidden language waiting to be deciphered.
Yeah, I like that.
So as you're walking around, look at the buildings, wonder about the stories they hold.
Yeah.
Wonder about the people who live there, what they dreamt about, the challenges they faced.
Yeah, how those lives shape the place that we call home.
Yeah. I think that's a really great thought to leave people with.
I do too.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And keep exploring.
Yeah, there's always more to discover.